Some people don't say "I'm fine" because they feel good. They say it because it's the shortest distance between themselves and the end of the conversation. It's a word that closes doors quietly. No follow-up questions. No explanations. No need to look too closely at what's actually happening inside. They wake up, check their phone, get out of bed, go through the motions of the day. They show up. They respond. They function well enough that no one worries. And that's exactly the problem. Because nothing looks wrong. And when nothing looks wrong, no one asks deeper questions, not even them. At first, this state feels neutral, manageable, almost peaceful. Life isn't overwhelming, but it isn't exciting either. There's no crisis, no collapse, just a steady emotional flatline that slowly becomes familiar. So the mind labels it as fine. Not because it's accurate, but because it's convenient. And over time, that convenience becomes a habit. What most people don't realize is that fine is rarely a feeling. It's usually a pause button, a way of suspending awareness just long enough to keep moving forward without friction. Psychologically, this matters more than it seems, because emotions don't disappear when they're ignored. They reorganize themselves quietly beneath the surface. People who feel fine often share subtle traits that rarely get talked about. They're not dramatic. They don't complain. They don't ask for much. They're the ones who say, "It's not a big deal," even when it is. They downplay discomfort automatically without thinking. They normalize exhaustion. They adapt quickly and rarely stop to ask whether adaptation is costing them something. From the outside, they look stable, reliable, emotionally mature. From the inside, they feel strangely distant. Not just from others, but from themselves. They don't feel deeply sad, but they don't feel deeply joyful either. Moments pass without landing. Conversations feel shallow even when they're meaningful. Life moves, but it doesn't quite register. This is where the confusion begins. Because nothing is technically wrong. There's no obvious pain to point to, no clear reason to feel this way. And without a clear reason, the mind defaults to the safest explanation. I guess I'm fine. But here's what psychology understands that most people don't. The brain's primary job isn't happiness. It's protection. When emotions felt inconvenient, ignored, misunderstood, or unsafe at some point, the brain adapted. Not by resolving those emotions, but by lowering their intensity. Feeling less became a strategy. Not consciously, not intentionally, but efficiently. The brain learned that if it stayed emotionally neutral, it could avoid disappointment, rejection, or overwhelm. So it turned the volume down on everything. Sadness, yes, but also joy, excitement, desire, connection. This isn't strength. It's emotional efficiency. And efficiency always has a hidden cost. Over time, this pattern becomes automatic. You stop checking in with yourself because there's nothing urgent to address. You stop asking deeper questions because surface-level functioning seems good enough. And because society rewards calm, composed, low-maintenance people, the pattern gets reinforced. You're praised for being easy, for not needing much, for handling things on your own. No one notices what's slowly going missing. For many people, this pattern started earlier than they realize. In environments where emotions weren't discussed, where needs weren't invited, where being quiet, agreeable, or independent felt safer than being expressive. So they adjusted. They learned to self-contain, to self-regulate, to not take up emotional space. It worked. It helped them survive. It helped them function. But it also taught them something subtle and dangerous. That disconnection feels safer than vulnerability. And once the brain learns that lesson, it doesn't easily unlearn it. It just keeps saying, "I'm fine." The cost of feeling fine rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive as a breakdown. It doesn't interrupt your life dramatically. It slips in quietly. At first, it shows up as indifference. Things that once mattered now feel neutral. You still enjoy moments, but they don't stay with you. You still laugh, but it fades quickly. Life becomes something you move through, not something you fully experience. Relationships are usually the first place where this shows. Even healthy ones. You care about people, but something feels slightly out of reach. Connection feels thinner than it should. You're present, but not fully engaged. And because nothing is obviously wrong, you assume this is just adulthood. That this is what maturity feels like. Calmer, quieter, less intense. But deep down, there's a vague sense of being emotionally late to your own life. Like you missed something important, but can't name what it was. This is the most dangerous part of feeling fine. It removes urgency. Pain pushes people to change. Desire pulls people forward. But neutrality does neither. So you stay. Years can pass like this. You build routines. You make responsible choices. You function well enough that no one questions your inner world. Not even you. Eventually, a strange contradiction forms. You're not unhappy, but you wouldn't say you're fulfilled. You're not lost, but you don't feel grounded either. And because there's no obvious problem to fix, you don't know where to start. That's when fine becomes a lifestyle, a psychological holding pattern where nothing collapses, but nothing evolves. If this resonates, it doesn't mean something is broken. It means something important went quiet for too long. So instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" try asking something different. What feelings do I avoid because they're inconvenient, confusing, or uncomfortable? What emotions have I labeled as unnecessary noise? What parts of myself did I learn to keep small so life would stay manageable? These questions aren't meant to create answers immediately. They're meant to restore awareness. Because awareness is what disrupts emotional numbness. Not forcing positivity. Not chasing intensity. Not fixing yourself like a project. Just noticing. Noticing when fine shows up automatically. Noticing when you dismiss your own internal signals. Noticing how often you choose emotional efficiency over emotional honesty. This isn't about becoming dramatic. It's about becoming accurate. Some people don't need to be healed. They need to reconnect. And reconnection doesn't start with action. It starts with attention. With allowing yourself to feel slightly more than is comfortable. With staying present long enough to notice what emerges instead of pushing it away. Slowly, subtly, things begin to change. Not in a way others can see, but in a way you can feel. Moments start landing again. Reactions feel more honest. You don't just move through life, you register it. And that's when fine starts losing its grip. Because you no longer need it as a shield. Some people aren't empty. They're protected. And protection, when left in place too long, becomes isolation. You don't need to tear it down all at once. You just need to notice that it's there. That's where reconnection begins. Quietly, without urgency, without spectacle. Just awareness returning one moment at a time.